Hello and welcome to the Why of It All podcast. We are doing episode 8 today, and we have our second ever guest. Courtney Jacobs has joined us. We're going to have an incredible conversation to follow up on the brain rewiring and nervous system regulation conversation that we've been having for the last 2 episodes. But first, we have some really exciting news. The Why of It All has our very, very first sponsor, and it's extra special because it's not just a brand we believe in. It's created by people we know and love. Our dear friends Patrick and Ashley have poured their hearts into an incredible pair of premium skincare and wellness lines called Tulip Blooms and Epic Minerals. And all of their products are rooted in nature, purity of ingredients, and an intention to promote genuine healing.
Every week, we'll be highlighting one of their incredible products, and today we're kicking things off with their original product, Rainfall, which is part of their Tulip Blooms product line that includes an exquisite collection of handcrafted soaps, lotions, and premium skin treatments with care in small batches.
And all the Tulip Blooms products include 100% organic ingredients. They're made in America, cruelty free, safe and effective for all skin types, which of course we love.
Rainfall is incredibly soothing, hydrating, and restorative. It starts with an aloe vera base packed with vitamins, minerals, and enzymes that calm and heal the skin. Then it layers in cold pressed organic plant oils like jojoba, hemp seed, rosehip, and evening primrose, each chosen for their nourishing and rejuvenating properties.
And the texture and the scent and the way that these products leave your skin feeling is incredible. I've been using Rainfall for about 6 months, and I'm totally obsessed with this perfect, natural, lightweight hydration that it provides. I love how rather than like the greasy surface level artificial moisture that other lotions offer, my skin, it feels like it just drinks up this Rainfall and it leaves me feeling naturally soft and supple and refreshed without that greasy feeling.
Same thing for me, Melanie. I haven't been using it as long as you have, but I put it on the morning after my shower, and I swear you think that it's not going to really moisturize because it's got that aloe vera base, but literally halfway through the day, I might sweep my arm or feel my leg, and I'm like, oh my God, my skin feels so. It's just basically a moisturized version of my own skin. So love it.
Yes, it feels so natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're ready to treat your skin to something special and support the show while you do, you can head to tulipblooms.shop and use our exclusive code HEAL, that's HEAL, at checkout for a sweet little discount of 10% off.
And this sponsorship is just so perfect for our show because, of course, healing is what we're all about on the inside and on the outside, as it turns out.
Thank you again to Tulip Blooms for sponsoring our show, and thank you to all of you for supporting us and the conscious brands we believe in.
And we will include the website for Tulip
Mhm.
Blooms and the promo code in the show description. So if you're looking for those products, just go right to the description, and that's where it's going to be. Now, let's get to our episode. We would love to introduce you to Courtney Jacobs. She is a functional nutritionist, a nutrition therapy practitioner, a certified life coach who's worked in the health field for 18 years. Courtney is most known for her ability to get her clients unstuck and change their lives by combining functional nutrition with life coaching, neural retraining, and mindset work. In Courtney's practice, she has witnessed firsthand that when somebody shifts from the inside out, along with the right diet and lifestyle, what emerges is the happiest, healthiest version of her clients that they have ever experienced. Courtney has experienced working with a wide variety of chronic, stubborn conditions, including those that stem from limbic impairment, which, of course, we were talking about in the last few episodes. Courtney's passion for this work stems from her own remarkable healing journey where she healed using diet, lifestyle, and neural retraining. She has recovered from gastrointestinal issues, SIBO, parasites, brain fog, joint pain, severe food intolerances, mold illnesses, histamine issues, anxiety, depression, you name it. Sounds really familiar, if I'm being honest, and I can't wait for her to share her story on that. Courtney is a bright light that offers hope and concrete direction to regain the life her clients dream of. when you work with her, you will soon see that all things are possible. So we are so excited to bring Courtney on. Ladies and gentlemen, Courtney Jacobs.
Hi.
Yes,
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for being
How
here.
was that?
absolutely. It's beautiful. Thank you. It's an honor to
You
be here.
bet. Courtney, your story is such an inspiration. And just a little heads up for our listeners, you and I have been working together since I think January's,
Yeah.
right? Does that sound
Yeah.
right? And I have talked a lot on this show about my personal experience with my own healing journey. And this was really the turning point, starting to work with you and especially the limbic work. I mean, I know that the nutrition and the diet has a lot to do with it, but for me personally, I feel like, especially since I started doing the limbic work that you suggested before I implemented the diet, and I had already started feeling better before we started doing the nutrition stuff. So it's absolutely life altering. I feel like I got my life back, and it just keeps getting better and better. So we are thrilled to have you on. I can't wait to hear what you have to say and share your story because your story is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. I got chills when you talk.
Yeah.
Recently I've just been praying for a lot of hearts to heal. And I can remember looking at you and I was like, if you're brave and do this, your life will change. Your
Mhm.
life will change.
Yeah.
Like I know it. And so yeah. So anybody who's listening, it's exciting stuff ahead. And it's real. It's real. You don't have to stay stuck.
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm,
And there's nothing woo woo about it.
No.
Like, sometimes
Yeah.
we're moving through the limbic rounds and doing the work. Some people might feel like feels a little awkward, but it's actually not. It's all just neuroscience. You've just figured out how to crack the code, and it just takes doing the work. So, really excited for this conversation. Let's start. If you're open to it, I'd love it if you would share your story because your story is just such an incredible inspiration. Could you take us back to what life looked like for you before your healing journey began and what ultimately led you
mhm,
to doing the work that you do now?
Yeah, great question. Let's see. I I started to get sick. I started to get weird symptoms. And so if anybody has chronic illness, they've been down this route. My body started breaking down. I started going to the doctor. They
mm,
said your labs look great and see you next year. And I'm like, I'm not okay. And then I would go back next year and I was even sicker. And they were like, I had a woman tell me, you are the picture of health because I was an athlete and I am an athlete, but uh, and she said, have you seen our psychiatry department? I said, I'm not crazy. Like my body's
mm,
shutting down. So I started with very extreme distension in my belly. And let's see, distension in my belly. Then one day I could run 8 miles. The next day I couldn't walk up the stairs.
mm.
Like,
How long
and
ago was that, Courtney? How long ago was that?
um, let's see, I was sick for 8 years. I'm not sure, 43, maybe around 30, I started
Okay.
getting sick. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Um, so then I started with food intolerances, and it was like, I think I'm reacting to dairy. Dairy's an issue, right? And then it was like, oh, actually I can't have gluten. And then it's like, oh, I'm reacting to cauliflower and eggs and you know,
Mm,
everything. So food intolerance started it. Then I started getting bruises. I started getting joint pain. A
mm,
lot of my chronic illness showed up in extreme mental health symptoms.
mm,
So anxiety, depression. I had a
mhm.
psychiatrist diagnose me as bipolar. I actually had two psychiatrists diagnose me as bipolar
Wow.
um, because I was exhibiting extreme behavior, which was scary for me.
Mhm,
Let's see. So that was the beginning of the journey of getting sick. And I didn't know what was going on, but I now know I experienced what is called a perfect storm. I was going through a
Mm,
divorce, I was exposed to mold, and I
mm.
was marathon training. So the three
Wow.
stressors together set me up for chronic illness. That's
Mhm,
what I thought once I figured the puzzle out. But the truth was, I was on Accutane when I was younger, and that
Oh.
now, working with chronically sick people, the number of people who've been on Accutane who end up chronically sick is extremely high.
Mm,
And then later when I found out about limbic system impairment, I realized I had that since I was a child, and so I actually think that primed my body for it. I'll explain that later.
mhm,
And that's where my
Wow.
chronic health started. Then I started chasing around different natural practitioners. And through my healing journey, I spent over $100,000 going to different practitioners. Um,
Yeah.
Many of them made me worse. Some moved the needle a little. I flew around the country. I would find somebody who, like I figured out I had SIBO, and I
mm,
flew to the SIBO center in Portland, and I was just on this incessant. I was like, my body can heal. So then I went to school for functional nutrition, and I got my body to a place that was at about 60%.
mm,
And I thought that was recovery. And what that felt like is if I spun a plate like this and I hopped on this foot and I wore blue and like everything was exactly perfect, I wouldn't have symptoms.
mm,
But at that time, I was still only eating like 6 to 8 foods.
mm,
But I was like, I can work out, like life is. Um, And then my body started breaking down in a different way. I started to get light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. I started to get touch sensitivity. So I couldn't wear my earrings. I couldn't go into Target because Target felt like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wow.
mm,
Then I started to react to EMF in my house. And when that started to happen, I was like, what am I going to do?
yeah,
Like, I'm reacting to the world now. Like,
everything.
it is literally everything. So, um,
What did reaction to EMF feel like to you? Like
yeah,
what tipped you off that that's what you were reacting to?
yeah. So I had put a trainer for a bike. So like I was training to do an 80-mile ride, and so I brought a trainer in the house, and that had Bluetooth connected to it. And so I started getting on the bike. And when I would be on the bike, I would start like my nervous system. Have you ever been like so in fight or flight? You're like, I would get on the bike, and within 10 minutes, like my nervous system would be shot. And I'm like, what is going on with this bike? Like, what is
Mm,
happening? But I was by my router, and like whatever was going on with that Bluetooth there, and then
mm,
it would take me hours to come down from that. Um,
mm,
but I didn't put that all together. I didn't know it was Wi-Fi. I'll explain to you how I figured that out. All I knew is if I got on that bike, I wasn't okay. I didn't know what was happening. I was just like, if I get on that bike, I wasn't okay. And so this is like when I was okay, right? And I was actually doing well, and I didn't want to tank that winter. So I had moved from Southern California to the East Coast. And every winter since I had been there, I went through seasonal depression. And I just thought there's got to be something. I had worked really hard to come off psychiatric medication. I don't have any of the diagnoses that they told me. None of that was accurate. I also had 4 conditions that I was told would be lifelong. I don't have any of those. But
Mhm.
I didn't want to get on psychiatric medication, but I didn't want to go through this seasonal depression because it was real and it got dark. And so I found a woman online who's a holistic psychiatrist. She was in Massachusetts. So I hired her. And I went to her and I said, I react to salicylates, lectins, oxalates. I have histamine issues. I have, this whole list of things, light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. And she said, you have limbic system impairment. And I said, what's that? She said, your body's stuck in a
Mhm.
state of fight or flight. And I was like, oh, yeah. So as soon as when I met Melanie and she was like, "Oh, I have been dealing with this and the Lyme for so many years," and I'm like, "Are you in
yeah,
fight or flight?" She's like, "Yeah." Like when I
Yeah.
ask somebody, somebody will
mhm,
say, "Well, I don't think so. How would I know?" I'm like, "You
yeah.
know." Like, you know. Somebody
Yeah.
knows when they have it. And
Courtney, that's actually my next question. So you're leading me to the next
yeah.
question. For somebody, for our listeners that have never heard of it before, how would you explain limbic system impairment in simple terms? Like put it in layman's terms. Like what kind of symptoms can show up when the limbic system is, say, dysregulated?
Yeah, great.
What?
Well, mostly all the symptoms I just listed. Mold toxicity can trigger limbic system impairment. Childhood trauma can trigger it, but just life stressors and chronic illness, a virus can trigger it. What it is when the brain is stuck in a state of fight or flight, the neocortex, our frontal lobe, is our rational thinking.
Yeah.
It's what gives us bandwidth and calm. This is offline. So if you picture the brain like this, the neocortex is offline. And what's
Okay.
running the show is the brain stem, the limbic system, the fight or flight. So my neocortex was not online. When somebody experiences that, they have light, they can have, and they don't have all of these light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, food intolerances, chemical intolerances, mold issues. They can have chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, histamine issues are extremely common, uh, joint pain, autoimmunity, nervous system conditions like dysautonomia or POTS are very interwoven with chronic limbic system impairment. But when you have limbic system impairment, what's happening is when that neocortex is offline, the brain is constantly releasing cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. And when that is happening, those are inflammatory chemicals, but the tight junctions of the gut can't heal. They can't close when that cascade of chemicals is coming out. So even though I had been on the perfect diet, my gut couldn't heal. Though that cascade of chemicals alters our microbiome, that
Sure.
affects our liver's ability to repair. So like let's just say somebody has a virus, right? Well, we can't, our immune system, 80 to 90% of our immune system is located in our gut. If our gut can't be robust and can't seal, you can't actually fight the virus. So it doesn't matter how many functional docs you go to and how many tests you pay for. The supplements aren't going to actually do it. Oh yeah, I couldn't tolerate a supplement. Like vitamin D sent me to the hospital
Oh,
to be
wow.
there. So
Wow.
I was super sensitive to everything, but um, there was physical stuff going on, but limbic system impairment is like lighter fluid on top.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from my experience too, and the way that it was affecting me is I was working on my just like you, I was working on my physical body, doing Lyme treatments and work eating everything I knew to eat to counteract chronic inflammation and taking all the supplements, and just nothing helped. It just didn't work at all. So, you're talking about the limbic impairment gets in the way of the tight junctions of the gut, but also it just keeps you stuck in that chronic inflammatory state. It's like tissue repair can't possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
No, so
yeah.
maybe you're gonna ask this, but so I had all of those hostess symptoms, and then the only thing I changed at that time was limbic work. Now I had already been on the right diet. The only thing I changed was limbic work,
Wow.
and I got my food intolerances reversed. Like that's what got my body to remission. And to me, remission is 95%. I have my life back. Like I'm not in a fragile position anymore. It's literally mind blowing. It is
Yeah.
mind blowing what happened.
Yeah, and for me, I noticed changes, significant life-altering changes in 2 weeks. Are you freaking kidding me? After a decade of treatments and therapies and supplements and medications that didn't work anyway, and like you said, tens of thousands of dollars on practitioners who maybe weren't wrong in their treatments and their diagnoses. That's the thing. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
Or at least they don't have to be wrong, but they're missing that crucial piece of the puzzle that's interfering with the healing
Mm-hmm.
process. I mean, amazing. Life altering is the perfect way to put it. The next question you've kind of already touched on. It was, why do you think so many people struggle to heal until they address their nervous system? And that's it. It's because
Yeah.
when the nervous system is interfered with, you can't shift into that healing
All
mode.
the
Yeah.
chemicals.
Yeah, and there's two things. Some people are coming from the limbic world. They hear there's a lot of limbic programs out there right now, and the limbic programs will tell you it doesn't matter what you do with your diet. You can eat whatever you want as soon as you heal your limbic system. And then many practitioners say, "Oh, well, just follow the diet. Let's do the testing. Let's kill the thing." And I literally don't think either will work if you don't do both. Like, you
Mm.
have to do both. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's super important.
And that was the perfect segue into the next question too, of bringing you in your practice, you're bringing together the nutrition and the mindset and the neural rewiring, and how do you see those pieces synergistically working together?
Yeah, how do I see them working together? The body's innate ability to heal is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I have calls with people and they say, I've literally tried everything. And so they're thinking to me, like, yeah, right. How's this going to happen? But uh, we do a 400 question health history. And when you not just test and then go try to kill this thing or go after this, when you systematically go after every system of the body, hormones, adrenals,
Mm-hmm.
stress, limbic system, circadian rhythm, and you bring all of those pieces together, the body can recover. The body can recover. Like, you had been doing it for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I can sit in front of somebody who's like literally tried everything and say,
Mm-hmm.
I know we can do this. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
far? I never know. There's 100% chance we can move their needle. When you bring everything in together, and it
Mm-hmm.
has to be all of the things,
Yeah.
uh, bodies recover.
I'm thinking of something. I want to jump in because when Melanie and I had our last episode, we were talking about this mind shift at training and reprogramming and rewiring. I've had EMDR therapy and I've been with a therapist and done all kinds of stuff to reactivate this frontal area because I've been in fight or flight for years. Me and Melanie have different fight or flight stories, but similar but different. And so um he when she started describing some of the limbic work that y'all did together, it reminded me of some of the things that my therapist would have me do. And it was, creating a safe space, closing my eyes while I'm sitting there and thinking of a space that is so peaceful to me. And for me, it's like a monastery. And so he'd have me. And so she's describing this because her and I had not talked about the limbic work specifically that you had done. And then,
She's talking about what we call the rounds, the limbic round.
limbic rounds, yes. And then and then he also had me do this thing called butterfly hugs. And it was where I crossed my arms. Have you heard of this, Courtney? Were you, okay.
Bilateral.
Okay, yeah, bilateral, yes. And then also had me hold on to leads that would vibrate and create that too. So do you use any of that in your practice? Like any of
Yeah,
the things that I've just described?
that's a great question. So,
Yeah.
um, over the 8 years of being sick, I went to acupuncture and did EMDR and
Hmm.
did somatic training and did trauma therapy and did
Yeah.
meditation. And I
Me
did
too.
all of the things, and
Hmm.
nothing, things made me feel calm,
Hmm.
right? Ish, but nothing rewired my brain until I started doing this. So what you just asked me is, do I include things like that? No. I
Okay.
start with top-down limbic work, because if the neocortex isn't held down, somebody
Hmm.
can sit in a calm state or use bilateral stimulation to calm themselves for 5 minutes, but the neocortex is offline. So as
Mm.
soon as they walk out and they see something, the brain's going to go and trigger, right? And so I
Yeah.
start, it doesn't mean that mine is the only way, but I
Hmm.
start with top down limbic work. I work on getting the neocortex held down so that they can function throughout the day. They can have trigger with their mother-in-law, or their kids can freak out, or
Yeah.
whatever, and the brain doesn't go back into fight or flight. Then
Mm.
I start working with somatic. Then we work from the bottom up. We
Okay.
start getting the body out of fight or flight. And so I start top down and then I
Okay.
go body up.
Okay.
And then some people say,
What does
well,
that look
I'm
like?
really into Joe Dispenza. And so I'm doing Joe Dispenza's meditations instead of my rounds. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's great. I did that for years. It's not going to rewire your brain. It's a really
Yeah.
cool thing. It's supplemental if you want to do that on top of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So what does that look like with the can you give our audience a picture of what that kind of daily practice looks like with the top down and then the
Yeah.
bottom up? Brief description.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't normally describe it out because it was given to me.
Mm,
But we sit in an elevated emotional state where
yeah.
we force the brain to release dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like you train this like a puppy. Sit, sit. And for me, here's the thing. I didn't just get food back and supplements back and like my chronic illness went away. My experience as a human is different. I am robust and strong. I have more bandwidth. I am happier. I feel more love. Like
Mm.
Melanie started, and like within 2 weeks, she said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy." My daughter said, "You're laughing. You're being fun." I don't remember exactly what you said,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
that practice it's kind of like my world went from technicolor to color, like black and white to
Oh,
color. And I didn't know I was stuck in black and white. I didn't know.
That
interesting.
is such a perfect way to put it, black and white to technicolor. And, you know, we haven't talked for a few weeks, Courtney, but it's gone for me, it's gone even beyond just laughing more and being more joyful. It has gotten to the point where it is so become so easy for me to maintain
Mm.
alignment with me, alignment with a positive mindset and a joyful state of being, that it's put me in alignment with life working out for me, opportunities just showing up. Every time I turn around, it's surprise and delight of another wonderful thing that just showed up, just miracles around every corner. It's like in a matter of 2 weeks of practicing brain rewiring techniques, I went from everything is miserable and I feel like shit all the time and nothing is working out and it's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock to holy crap, my life just flipped 180 degrees and everything is always working out for me.
I
Like,
mean,
and
I can explain to you what happens, but then it's
yes,
gonna sound woo woo. So here's the thing: limbic work. When I started it, it sounded totally crazy to me because I had already been through functional nutrition school, and I'm like, I can literally tell you what an oxalic crystal does. Like when I have oxalates, my knuckle swells. How is brain retraining? Talking to my brain gonna fix this? Like I knew biochemically what was happening in my body. So I was like, but this thing couldn't hurt me and I had nothing to risk, nothing to lose. So I'm like, all right, I'm throwing myself in. I'm throwing myself in. And so I throw myself in and I totally forget where I was going with that. Where did I
we were you were going to explain why I had that
Oh yeah,
experience
yeah,
of
yeah.
like
Okay.
just
So
everything always all
yeah.
yeah.
So I started it and then I started learning the science of the cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and the limbic system and the neocortex. And I was like, oh, this actually is science. There's actually zero woo-woo about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really cool. There's some really cool information and stuff that you can learn about how the body does that. But the woo-woo part is I went to a Joe Dispenza like 5-day retreat.
Meditation. Mm-hmm.
And so we hear about the quantum field, right? The quantum field is not woo-woo, right? Quantum
No,
physics tells us that, right, that there are multiple realities going on at the same time. In the quantum field, this is where it might be too much for somebody. In the quantum field, all things are possible. When you do
correct.
a limbic round, when you do a limbic round, you become nobody, nowhere, no thing, no time. You literally
Mm-hmm.
enter the quantum field. And so when
Mm-hmm.
I was doing my limbic work, I had written a list of 10 things I wanted to manifest that decade. I just needed ideas for my limbic rounds. And so I would go down the list and every day I would do another thing. In 2 years, I completed the entire list but one. Everything showed up. Now I was like, oh my God, all these things are showing up. So I just like did this exercise with my clients and then all of their things started showing up. And then when I went to the Joe Dispenza retreat and we entered the quantum field, I was like, oh, that's what we've been doing. Because he kept saying, when you
Mhm.
are there, you are nobody, nowhere, no thing, no time. And I was like, we've been in the quantum field creating. We've actually been rewiring our brain to get out of chronic illness, but you actually entered the quantum field. And so that's why you become so magnetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Th-
And we've talked about in previous episodes, we've talked about frequency and changing your state of alignment, climbing up the emotional ladder and aligning yourself with higher and higher frequencies. And what you give thought to is what you attract. And so if you're in a place where you're thinking really dark, heavy, negative thoughts all the time, guess what? You're going to get more of that.
Mhm.
If you're in a place where you're like all of the sudden in a lighter state of being and you're feeling better in your body, it becomes so much easier to be in alignment with the better feeling thoughts, bringing in better feeling experiences.
It's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Amazing. Amazing.
Courtney,
Gina, you want to grab the next?
yes, I've got another question for you. So rewiring work can bring up a lot, like resistance, fear, even physical symptoms. How do you support clients through that messy middle when things feel worse before they get better? I'm sure that's happened and that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Your clients.
So to be really honest, most brains experience resistance. They've been
Mhm.
stuck in a
Mhm.
pattern for 20, 30, 40 years. So it takes a lot of like, I'm going to sit and do this no matter what. So that takes that. It's extremely, extremely rare or odd that limbic work kicks, like this form of limbic work kicks up symptoms. Now, going through the
Okay.
diet protocol can, but very, very rare it will rev a system. If so, they can do a calm round. Um, a lot of times people will get buy-in like Melanie did in the first 2 to 6 weeks. Like they feel a shift happening, so that creates a buy-in because it really takes 6 months to 3 years to fully
Hmm.
rewire. Um, how do I get them through the middle part? Because then there's a
Hmm.
long period of time that not much is happening.
Hmm.
And then people go through a flat part where they're like, my rounds don't feel any, I feel flat, I don't feel anything. And they're feeling better. And I know that if they don't keep pushing through, they haven't fully rewired. They're feeling better, but it's not like locked down yet.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, staying close. And I worked with a one-on-one limbic coach. I also attended limbic groups.
Hmm.
Having somebody to walk you through the journey to remind you this is normal.
Yeah.
Symptoms will flare. So like
Hmm.
as you go through the healing process, symptoms are going to flare. Like it happens. We don't
Of
do the
course.
limbic work to get rid of the migraine that day or the chronic fatigue or the heart palpitations that day. It is so that they never show up.
Hmm.
So being around other people listening to podcasts like this
Hmm.
and knowing that the brain is an organ that is designed to be rewired. It can't not but rewire.
Hmm.
That means
Wow.
theirs, yours, anybody listening to this, your brain will rewire.
Hmm. You
Will.
can create new neural pathways. I mean, it's scientifically proven, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. That's how often do you see your clients? Like Melanie and I haven't gotten into the specifics, but like, do you see them once a week, once a month, once bi-monthly? Like, what's your typical? I'm just curious. What's your protocol?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It totally depends where somebody's at and their ability
Okay.
to follow through.
Mm-hmm.
Some people I see every week for a lot of months. Some people
Yeah.
come in and I see them for the first couple weeks, and then they come in every other week. They pop in once a month.
Yeah.
And then often I see people once a month for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Can
there's
they?
many that stay weekly because then they work on life coaching and
Okay.
yeah.
Can you see people like all over the country? Can you do Zoom calls with them or do you need to see them in person?
Yeah, so I have it's myself and I have 3 practitioners, so I have 3 nutritionists.
Okay.
All of
Okay.
the, all of their bodies have recovered from complex chronic illness. And so we do it all via Zoom and
Okay. That's great.
That makes it so easy.
Yeah.
And, as clients, I can say, I can add to it and say, we are doing our homework every day. So it's like there can be time that passes in between the Zoom visits where we kind of catch up, talk about our wins, discuss next steps and all of that. But the homework we're doing every day.
yeah.
And that's a critical part of the protocol, is the consistency and the dedication to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm.
And talking about, your clients and how you work with people, you've seen a lot of people come back from the brink of hopelessness. Is there a favorite client story that you can share with us? Obviously, maintaining privacy for people, but something that really like gives you goosebumps, and you've seen somebody truly come back to life in a way that they didn't think was possible.
Yeah, like so many, it's hard to pick.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
one is a gal who on our call, so those with dysautonomia or POTS, many of them come to us bedbound, right? Like sometimes people just have some gastrointestinal issues. Some people are bedbound, and this gal was like 28. She was in Australia, and she was laying in bed, and she no longer had muscle to pick her neck up off the
Mm.
pillow, right? And
Mhm.
so like her head was propped up for the call. And it's really beautiful and tender when you take a human like that. And so I saw her. So somebody like that I see almost every week for an extended period of time.
Cool.
And she started doing limbic work and threw herself into it. And we started a really beautiful healing protocol for her body. And at 2 years in, she sent me a video on WhatsApp of she got to ride her bike like a quarter mile around this lake. And for somebody who has been bedbound for a lot of years, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. So that's really cool. Um,
That gave me chills. I mean, talk about getting your life back.
yeah, that's like
Ah.
getting my life back. I've had a guy with
Hey.
alopecia, no hair
Mhm.
since he was 8, get his hair back. A gal with
That's
ulcerative,
cool.
yeah, a girl with ulcerative colitis get into full remission. Her
Oh.
her gastro doctor had been the same doc for years. He came out of the colonoscopy and he said, "What are you doing? If you didn't, like, I wouldn't even know that you have ulcerative colitis." Like her body
Mhm.
looked full remission. So lots of stuff like that's possible. I mean, it's
That
And those are
literally mind blowing what is possible.
yeah,
Mhm.
those are conditions that generally are considered essentially incurable and only manageable at best.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like the alopecia guy, he was in Canada. He flew to Dubai to like the specialist of the world, and that guy told him the type of alopecia you have is incurable. Incurable. Well,
And
he has
then
a
he
full head of hair.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I love that. Um,
Wow.
Another couple questions here, Courtney. What's a common misunderstanding people have about brain rewiring or limbic system work? Like, do people come in and have a misconception about what you do? And if so, what's a common
Sure.
misconception?
I did it and it didn't work.
Mm, I
I've
did
done
it and it
that.
didn't work.
I've
Have
done
you?
that. So then I talked to them and they have done Olympic-like activities, but they actually haven't done like serious brain retraining, or
Hmm.
they signed up for a program like Gupta or DNRS and they watched the videos and didn't do it. Um, or
Mm,
there can be a lot of different things that had gone on, or they did it and they weren't on the proper diet protocol, right? It's not
hmm.
going to be enough. And so I
Hmm.
would say, here's the thing. I have never not seen limbic work except under one circumstance always, when somebody doesn't do it.
Mm.
So people say to me, "Does this not work sometimes?" I said, "Yep. A lot of times it doesn't
You
work."
don't.
They're like, I'm like all the people that don't do it. But the
Yeah,
ones that
for
do,
sure.
I've never seen it not help. I've never
Okay.
seen it not help.
So
Yeah.
you have, if people do it and they follow the protocol, there's a 100% success rate. Is that what you would
There's a
say?
100% chance it's gonna move the needle.
Okay.
It's gonna
Okay.
move the needle, right? What that
Yeah.
means to each individual is different because
Sure.
it's really dangerous for somebody to guarantee anything. They could still be
Of
living in
course.
mold and I have
Yes.
never not seen it move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any other tool in my toolbox, and I have a really strong, nutritional protocol that I've taken people through. I don't have anything else in my toolbox that, like berberines, really great at helping with blood sugar. That doesn't move the needle for everybody. I have
Mm,
never not seen limbic work move the needle for somebody.
That's beautiful.
it is. It's
You
impressive.
know, full disclosure, I was traveling the last 2 straight weeks in a row with only 1 day home in between 2 separate trips. And so I was slacking off a little bit on my Limbic rounds. You know, it's hard to do it when, you're in a hotel room and husband and kid are right there, right? It's like hard to get your privacy moments. And at the end of those 2 weeks traveling, I still felt significantly better than I felt prior to starting this work, but I could feel
Mhm.
my body a little bit backsliding
Mhm.
in terms of
Yeah,
things
like
getting achy that haven't
how
been achy in
many
a
how many
while,
how
and
many months are you in? January. Oh, so you're 4 months.
we
You're
started
4 months. Yeah,
January.
you're 4 months in. So that's what happens to somebody. What bums me out is sometimes people get like 4 months in and they're like, "Oh, my symptoms are down. I'm having this wonderful life." And then they show up back a year later and they're a mess again.
Mm,
And
Yeah,
because they didn't do it long enough. Like you're moving in the
yeah,
right direction, but for that to get a thick groove, you have to
hmm
do it for another 6 months. And then
right, you gotta really establish those new neural pathways, and I said to my husband towards the end of our 2nd trip, when we were like in the airport headed home, I was like, I can't wait to get home so I can get back in my limbic round routine. Like, I totally need to get back into it. I can feel a little backslide and I need to maintain the discipline and the consistency because it
hmm
just freaking
it
works.
works, and
hmm
then, like, I don't do limbic rounds any day every day anymore, only if, like, something really big pops off in my life, but you
hmm
will get a robust system, you know?
Yeah. And how long did you do it for
I did it
consistently before you
consistently
felt like it was safe to chill
a
out?
year and a half. So I
Yeah.
did minimum 40 minutes every day for a year and a half. I worked toward
Yeah.
60, most of the days, but a minimum of 40 minutes for a year and a half. Changed my life.
Yeah.
It
It's
was so worth
awesome.
it.
Yeah. And it becomes a self-motivating thing. You had different words for it earlier. I can't remember what the perfect words were that you gave, but I feel so much better doing it, and it makes me want to keep doing
Yeah,
it. And so it's like in the beginning, you're building that new habit. In the beginning, you're sort of like there's a little bit of a hesitance. You're not used to doing it. It's a time commitment. There's a time commitment. But for me, it made me feel so much better that it became easy after a while to prioritize my own well-being and commit to the practice that after a decade of nothing working, finally you move the needle.
yeah, so we're talking about these rounds and all of this stuff that's really remarkable. If anybody's listening to this and they're like, "Oh, this sounds like too much. I wouldn't even know where to start." Here are things that were super important that I was told when I started is one is to stop researching. So I was incessantly
Mm.
researching my health. That was keeping me stuck in a state of fight or flight. So
Mm,
I have all of my clients stop researching. I have all of my clients stop talking about their condition. I have them
mm.
unsubscribe, unfollow from all of the health groups because, hey, by the
Yes.
way, those Facebook health groups, those are the sick people. The people who are recovered aren't there anymore. They're not hanging out there. So
That's
you're only
good.
getting the lower bucket of people freaking you out, and that keeps the
Yep.
brain stuck in a state of fight or flight.
Yep.
Um, Rebringing joy into your life. Like when we get chronically sick, we become so scared, right? And that becomes all of our thoughts. It becomes all we talk about. It affects marriages and friendships. And so um there's 2 books that I always tell people to get. One is Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and 2 is, uh, Bowman, his last name is Bowman, Will Bowman, A Complaint-Free World is such a beautiful
Mhm.
book. It is such a beautiful book, and just even because somebody, they had said to me, "Oh, you have to stop talking about your health," and then when I started, I realized my brain had been thinking about my health, and it scared day, all day.
Yeah.
Scared.
And yeah.
Hmm
2 episodes, we did an entire episode on what story are you telling?
hmm
And it was about exactly what you just described, that staying in a constant state of telling other people the story of your disease
Mm-hmm.
or your illness or whatever it is that you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the internal monologue that happens when you're constantly symptom scanning and researching and all of the things that keep you entirely focused on the problem and focused on the disease and focused on the I don't feel good and I'm miserable and anxious and all the other things. We did a whole episode of changing the story,
Mm-hmm.
which was partly inspired by your encouragement when we started working together with stop telling the story of how crappy you feel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Stop telling it to all the people you live with.
Right.
Stop telling it to everybody you come into contact with.
Right.
Stop telling it to yourself.
Because when you tell the
Yeah.
story, you like if you have anxiety and then you tell the story, you're releasing neurochemicals that are going to
Correct.
increase the emotion that's there. And so you're
Exactly.
exacerbating the experience.
You're
Yeah.
staying in that experience.
Correct.
You're
Correct.
keeping yourself there. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Are there any other for people out there who are listening and they're currently in this moment feeling stuck and hopeless in their healing journey? You gave some great suggestions just there. Is there anything else you'd like to offer as like a first step for somebody who's like ready to get unstuck in this moment?
Yeah.
Something simple that
Yeah.
they can
I
do
want
at
you to
home.
get a post-it note and I want you to get 2 of them. And one I want you to write on it, others heal, so can I.
Beautiful.
Others heal, so can I. And
Mm.
then I want you to choose something that's a positive affirmation for yourself. I had to build the ability to show up for myself. And so, oh, here's a good one that I use. I used post-it notes all over my house when I was recovering. And I put mood follows action. And that meant I had to take the action to actually feel good. I was like waiting to feel good to
Mm.
take the action. Oh, I don't feel good today. Oh, I don't feel good today.
Mm-hmm.
Mood
Mm-hmm.
follows action, but anything that you need to hear. One I wrote, I see miracles everywhere, because you want your limbic system to start focusing on other things. And we have a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. That is like when you buy a blue truck and then you see, oh, these blue trucks are everywhere. No, they
Mm-hmm.
always were, but your brain is just sensing them now. So I would use post-it notes, but the most important one is others recover, so can I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
That's
you
good.
can.
That's
You
good.
can. You just haven't found the right person to help get you out. And
Okay.
another thing is if you're out there doing it by yourself, if you
Mm-hmm.
could do it by yourself, you already would have.
True.
Mm.
So true.
So true, because it
So
is
true.
so complex, all the information on the internet. Like, it's amazing we have all this information available to us. And yet, if I listen to like 10 different podcasts right now, they would tell me 10 different things and go on
Yeah.
Instagram
Yeah.
and they're telling me something different.
Mm-hmm.
So even on my health, I see a practitioner because I can't see my own picture the same.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I used to do the postcard, excuse me, the post-it note on my mirror. So you know what? You just inspired me. I'm gonna get the post-its back out and I'm gonna put, I had like 2 or 3 that I put on my bathroom mirror. So every day I would look at it multiple times a day, brushing your teeth, washing your face, whatever, getting ready. And so thank you, because that I'm gonna reinstate that habit that I used to do a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
And that one in particular, others can heal and so can I, is such an accessible affirmation because it's just true. Like
Mm-hmm.
Gina and I have talked about on other episodes how sometimes people will create affirmations that are just too far of a leap and they don't actually believe it. But that one is so good because it is so easily
Oh, yeah.
accessible.
Here's
Mm-hmm.
the other thing somebody needs to hear, because this is what
Yeah.
I hear all the time and what my brain told me. That's why I had a post-it note that said others recover, so can I, is because
Mm-hmm.
this is what I hear. Uh, or this is also what I felt. So they couldn't like find autoimmunity or find Lyme, or like I was like, they don't even know what's the matter with me. Like, I'm reacting to my earrings. I'm reacting to the bike. I'm so bad. Nobody knows. Like, I go to these doctors, they don't even know. Like, I am the one that is so different that nothing works for. And then I hear everybody tell me that, oh, you don't understand why mine is so different. It's not going to work for me. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I have seen so many extreme complex cases who have gotten better that others recover, so can you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? So that is actually limbic system impairment. My limbic coach told me it's limbic system impairment, that my brain is separating myself, that like,
Mm.
oh, nothing's going to work for me. I've tried it all. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It is.
I love it.
Thank you.
This has been an incredible conversation,
Yeah.
Courtney. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me.
I'm
It's
so
beautiful what
glad
you
you
guys
were
are
willing
doing.
to come on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're having a good time. And, Gina and I are just figuring it out as we go too, just like so many other people out there. But this has been amazing. Your
Mhm.
contribution to this conversation has been absolutely perfect. Would
Eh,
you like to share how people can find you, how they can support your work,
Yeah.
how they can work with someone like you or you, and where can they find you?
Yeah, so I have an online Limbic program that you would buy and go through on your own, or you can you can go to finalkeywellness.com, and we have an online Limbic program, and then you can also work with a practitioner. And yeah, it's unbelievable. Healing recovery is possible. I also have an Instagram at Final Key, Courtney Jacobs at Final Key, and yeah, I would be
Hey.
honored to help anybody or talk to anybody. A lot of times we'll do for calls with somebody. Just it's so beautiful to hear like, oh, I can get better.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I can tell you when we had our first consultation, I felt a level of renewed hope that I hadn't felt in so long. And it came from feeling so heard and so seen and so understood. And I'd seen lots of practitioners that in the moment would say, offer me a diagnosis or something that made sense. And I would have a spike of hope that would eventually lead to disappointment and frustration. But it was different with you because it wasn't just a diagnosis that made sense. It was like I felt like you truly understood what I was going through in a way that nobody else had on all the levels with of all of the symptoms. You were just like, yeah, of course, that's why this is going on because da 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 da. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Like just life altering. So I have so much gratitude for you. So uh incredibly grateful for myself for following the inspiration and the inner guidance that led to our little divine appointment when we met. And anyway, it's just amazing. It's an amazing healing journey, and I'm so grateful for you for being a part of it.
thank you. Thank you for having me here,
Mhm.
both of you ladies.
Thank you,
Yep.
Courtney. And we will include your website and everything on the show description. So if people didn't catch it the first time, we'll make sure people can find you because I think you're doing really good work. So we think you're doing good work.
So this has been great, everybody. Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this episode of The Why of It All, please hit that positive affirmation button. Give us a like or a follow or subscribe, whatever platform you're on. Share with your friends. Help us connect to other people that are in alignment with this message, that are in their own healing journeys, so that we can all lift one another up as we move through it together. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.